In my video called Do You Have Synesthesia?, I explained how some people experience an intermingling of their senses, and I argued that everybody, even you, experiences synesthesia to some extent. When your parents held you as a baby, you experienced two concepts, warmth and affection, simultaneously, and your brain created a connection between those concepts. Today, activating one concept will activate the other concept. When people feel lonely, they find people in red shirts to be more attractive because their brain is confusing that physical warmth of red with the social warmth that they're craving. Those steps can explain other connections of synesthesia as well. For example, what would the color purple taste like for somebody with synesthesia? Well, the answer would depend on a past experience in their early life. If they tasted something while seeing the color purple, their brain would have created an unusually strong connection between those separate domains. After that connection was formed, activating one concept, like the color purple, would activate the associated taste. However, there's a problem. If these connections emerge from individual experience, then why are some associations universal in synesthesia? For example, researchers are currently unsure why people with synesthesia associate red with the letter A. Now, based on all of the information in my past videos, you have all of the information that you need to solve that mystery, but I'll give you time to think it over. I'll explain what I think is happening later in this video. In the meantime, I want to discuss a related concept. In my past videos on synesthesia, we've been discussing co-occurrences. When two concepts frequently occur simultaneously, your brain merges those concepts. In my book, The Tangled Mind, I refer to this merging as conflation. But we merge concepts in other ways too. Consider the concept of time. Time is completely removed from your sensory experience. You can't see it, you can't feel it, or interact with it in any way. So how did you come to understand the concept of time? You can answer that question by looking at how we communicate that concept. Just look at this YouTube video. How is YouTube portraying the duration of this video? Well, they're using spatial concepts like motion and distance. And when you break down our language, you'll notice that we also speak about time using those spatial concepts. We're moving through these concepts very quickly. We'll be reaching the end of this video in the near future rather than the distant future. Again, just like my past videos, these spatial metaphors aren't just linguistic expressions like we normally assume. They reflect deeper cognitive connections in our brain. With conflation, two concepts occurred simultaneously, and our brain merged them. With this new process, which I'll call scaffolding, things are different. Time is abstract, so there's nothing to experience or co-occur via our senses. Rather, we use sensory concepts like spatial distance to construct our understanding of time. So today, right now, as you listen to me talk, your concept of time is infused with spatial concepts. But what does that mean? Well, here's an example. Researchers presented two similar sentences. John opened the book, and an hour later, he finished it. John opened the book, and the next day, he finished it. People who read the second sentence with the next day needed more time to recall the original event of John opening the book. When people conceptualized the next day, they weren't just activating this abstract concept alone. They were activating the foundation on which this abstract concept was built. This deeper skeleton was the sensory concept of spatial distance. In order to recall the original event of opening the book, they needed to traverse across a larger spatial distance, which slowed their response time. You can see a similar effect when you visualize events. Right now, visualize a party that's happening next week. Your visualization is only a mental picture, so intuitively, this mental picture of the party next week should look very similar to a mental picture of that same party next year. But that's not actually the case. When you visualize events across time, your visualizations mimic spatial distance. When things appear further away in space, you can't see the details as clearly. And when things occur further away in time, your visualizations contain fewer details because, from your brain's perspective, those events are occurring spatially farther away. In one study, researchers asked people to color a blank drawing of a housewarming party. When the event occurred in the distant future, people used fewer colors because their visualizations contain fewer details. We've been discussing time, but you can see the same metaphor of spatial distance in other abstract concepts. For example, we describe social relationships in terms of distance. You could say that you are close to your family, even though you might act distant occasionally. These metaphors reveal a deeper cognitive structure. In one study, people preferred the advice of a loved one while they were making a decision in the near future, but they preferred the advice of a stranger for a decision in the distant future. Why? Their brain was confusing temporal distance and social distance. The important thing to realize is that all of these abstract concepts are built upon a sensory foundation of spatial distance. When you think of any abstract concept, you activate the sensory concepts underneath. So, have you figured out why people with synesthesia associate the letter A with the color red? In my past videos, I argued that our brains merge warmth and red because those concepts occur simultaneously with heat sources. We also merge warmth and affection because we experienced those concepts when our parents held us. Well, when you look at this event of being held, you can see another concept that occurs simultaneously: proximity. We merge warmth and affection and proximity. Based on all of these co-occurrences, we can equate red colors with a closer proximity. And sure enough, research confirms that red objects seem spatially closer. This reasoning can also explain why people with synesthesia associate the letter A with the color red. You begin saying the alphabet with the letter A. Thus, the letter A is closest to you. Even though this proximity is an abstract conceptualization of distance, it still, nonetheless, activates a deeper primitive concept of spatial distance. Therefore, because of the association between red and proximity, I'd argue that this reasoning explains why people with synesthesia associate the letter A with the color red. That example involved synesthesia, but there are so many ways in which scaffolding dictates our perception and behavior. If you want to learn all of those important implications, you can read The Tangled Mind, which is densely packed with that information. And don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos of interesting psychological concepts.